Meant to be picking up. He's done his job. He's done his job.
Oh, they're coming back. From the...
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Worthy Principal, distinguished guests, and respected old boys, it gives me immense pleasure to welcome all of you to this alumni reunion. We shall begin today's event with a recitation and translation of the Holy Quran, for which I invite Hamdan Ashfaq to the stage. Hamdan.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل هو الله أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد صدق الله العظيم. Translation. In the name of Allah, the most gracious, most merciful. Say, He is Allah, the one, the only. Allah, the eternal, the absolute. He begets none, nor is He begotten, and there is none like unto Him. وَمَا عَلَيْنَا إِلَّا الْبَلَاغُ.
Jazakallah Hamdan. I will now invite the Principal, Mr. Michael Thompson, to say a few words and to welcome our chief guest to today's event.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for making time to be here. It is a special reunion of old boys, and I would like to first acknowledge the chief guests, and among them other eminent old boys, of course, Mr. Fakar Imam, the Minister for Kashmir Affairs. Welcome, sir. Prince Malik Atta, who was meant to be here, who has not yet arrived, but I welcome him in space. Mr. Saad Bab Ali, Mr. Fayaz Ahmad Lagari, Mr. Shah Jahan Ayub, the President of ACOBA, Mr. Adnan Assad, Major Donor of the Old Building, is here, and of course Mr. Mohammed Nawaz Tawana also joins us. Welcome, sir. Indeed, welcome to everybody. In particular, I'm pleased to see we've had wives, maybe children, but wives. Welcome, welcome to families. I'm certain this is a period of fond memory for you. It's at the forethought of your thoughts today, and being together with friends and family in the beauty and design of this college, it must be a very special and proud moment for you. Had I attended Aitchison, I would be joining this reunion with you, the similar age group, and I am with you in spirit today. And you have reached what I think writers refer to as the permanent spring of appreciation. And as principal, I would ask you to allow me to say a few words without sounding as if I know too much or giving away secrets I should not. Everybody knows that for Aitchison to be successful, there's an ocean of people who are relied upon. So when I refer to Mr. Zulfikar Ali Shah and Dr. Ghulam Razul Chaudhry as the bookends of your school lives, and Mr. Abdul Ali Khan as the boisterous middle, you will know that these are signposts that are convenient markers for engaging in a much larger conversation. And with that proviso, I'd like to say a few words about each of the men who have influenced your upbringing. I say that because I spent the last month or so reading letters in my spare time, written by all three men. And it's quite as you would know from your generation, it's quite a different experience reading a letter written by hand as opposed to an email. There's something of the soul in every letter, the formation of the letters and the words and the stroke of the pen. Ali Shah had a long association with the college prior to assuming the principalship. And Kelly and Barry wrote effusively about a young and very talented man who taught mathematics. He played sport, great cricketer, who never spared himself, was a word used often, and who Kelly remarked was a walk-up choice for an early housemaster. Barry, who seldom was dizzy with compliments, said that Ali Shah was a man of fine repute and talent. Now you would know this. Maybe you don't know, because this next part's interesting. I discovered a letter from Barry that was corroborated by Ali Shah, a secret, highly secret letter. It was actually put into 2 envelopes. That's MI6 of your generation. And in that envelope was a fishing expedition to see if Ali Shah would like to be the next principal. At that stage, Barry's health was poor, but that's how much he thought of Ali Shah. And as if to prove complete opposites agreed, John Hill, who I think you would remember from your school days, some of you, wrote enthusiastically about a sensitive, intelligent man from an ancient family who could bowl fast and bat well. As it was, Ali Shah became principal when Mr. Catchpole withdrew from that particular round of interviews. Good fortune for Aitchison College. So Ali Shah rose to the ranks of principal, having been a teacher, a housemaster, and knowing intuitively about the school. So it was with a degree of sadness that I came across a letter dripping in discomfort at his being removed at short notice before the end of his second term. That was in 1962. And while some bridges were mended, it was not the way an illustrious career perhaps should have ended, but it did end and finish graciously and with as satisfactory resolution as is possible in those things. But I wish to note today that he took a school in quite some debt to a very reasonable position. Should not be forgotten. And he's the first acknowledged proponent of the 3-school system at Aitchison College, and he saw the extension of the Barry Block. He in fact doubled the school roll from 1,000 to 2,000, and I particularly feel for him as the first Pakistan principal and the weight or the burden at that particular time at which he served. Alas, none of us are masters of our own destiny. And so it was that Abdul Ali Khan assumed the hot seat to leave his own imprint. And as some of you old boys will know, it was more than just one imprint of a particular kind. Sportsman, tough, kind-hearted, scrupulously fair are words that have been echoed to me. He was a down-the-middle sort of man, of no nonsense, and I get the feeling he was a man's man. Stories are humorous and otherwise about him, and a larger-than-life figure. But the interesting thing to me, as a principal reading the letters, was that Ali Khan made sure that the invaluable land holdings during his time remained in control of Aitchison College. They were strategic occupations. For example, the Canal Road and Junior School, and then the corner of Davis Avenue and Sundardas, where now the staff apartments exist. That's a wonderful legacy to give a school. But he too would leave the school before his term was up. And Dr. Chaudhry, of course, we know was a magnificent hockey player, great sportsman. And he worked here for a period of 7 years as assistant master before his elevation. And he should be remembered for the campus colony and the prep school block, the Zulfikar block. And being a brilliant sportsman himself, I was fascinated to learn that 4 boys during his tenure would play for national teams for Pakistan, 2 in tennis, 2 in hockey. And one of those, perhaps the greatest hockey player of all time, Hassan Sadar, will be one of our chief guests on November the 2nd when we open the new hockey field. Yes, I agree. So you'll be surprised when I say this, you don't think I know this, but I do, that you can also revel in the glory of your perfect record against Lawrence College or Goragully, where you had 6 straight wins. That's never been repeated. Reading the letters and archives, you eventually realise that Aitchison has been doing lots of things for a long, long time. And interestingly, most of the challenges have not really changed at all. The trials that occasionally rear up have all been experienced before. The old boys invariably rally around, the board deliberates, politics and education simply motors on. Even the joys and accomplishments that we've celebrated before, we celebrate now, maybe over slightly different things. But the one thing that's clear is when all the forces are aligned, Aitchison becomes the most potent school possible. By a certain age, I think you come to terms with the reality that few people and things are unique. You're born unique and we end up being copies. I think Abraham Lincoln said that. I think this may be the lovely part of Aitchison though. Things only change in order to remain the same. We may have a different curriculum, new facilities, mountains of fresh ideas, but the fundamental task of education has not altered in 100 years. It is always seeking the most relevant outcome and battling to focus boys on good things long enough for them to realise their potential. That's never changed. When I think of why we're here today, and I'm about to finish, we're here to usher in a new rifle range, which I think ended in 1994. And I do want to thank the help of one young older boy, Hamza Pervez Malik, for his assistance and advice in that matter. On November the 2nd, the new Jaffa Memorial Hockey Field will be opened. It had to be opened. We need a synthetic hockey field to resurrect hockey in this country, and we will do it. On all other fronts, academics and boarding, the school has never been better. Top universities have been reached, borders have got there, and I think the school has behaved superbly throughout. It's a great honour to be principal of this school, and it's an even greater honour to know that I can enjoy it with people who have been here for many, many years and have given not only me great support, but all the staff great support. I would like to welcome now to the microphone Syed Fakar Imam. I don't think you need any introduction, sir, as to what your background is and your achievements. We look forward to your address. Thank you.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The Honourable Principal, Mr. Thompson, Mrs. Thompson, Honourable ladies and gentlemen, I should say it's a great honour, privilege for me to be back at Aitchison. I was at Aitchison from 1950 to 1955 when I went to prep school in England and then public school in England. So I got to compare public schools both in my own homeland and where the public school system started way back 900 years ago. The public school system worldwide has evolved over the years, and I think Aitchison and maybe half a dozen other schools such as Lawrence College, the college started by Sikandar Khan Sahib at Bahawalpur and others, have kept certain standards. But unfortunately, those standards have not been maintained at a higher level of universities. Maybe I shouldn't go into that realm, because the person who invited me here said I should talk more on Kashmir affairs. But there are luminaries sitting here who perhaps know much more about Kashmir affairs than I do. I accidentally landed up, sir, I'm the chairperson of this committee formed through a motion in the National Assembly of Pakistan 1994, which decided to set up a committee on Kashmir. So we are not really part of government, although we get the status of federal minister. But we were supposed to sensitize and bring about the Kashmir cause into focus, both domestically and internationally. There have been several chairpersons before me, but in this particular tenure, now we have honorable members of the Senate of Pakistan. Previously, there were only members of the National Assembly, members for the Kashmir Committee. Our mandate is broad, not defined in any real terms. And in fact, one of our members said to me, why don't we try and define things? So I said, well, definitions are always something which we can always deliberate over, and there will be no two definitions perhaps on which most of us will agree. But Pakistan post 5th of August 2019 is facing I think its biggest challenge post December 20, 1971. Post 20th December 1971, for many years, Kashmir was not raised as an issue in the United Nations because we had lost half our territory, and our government, our people, the state of Pakistan, we were recovering. It was only post 1987-88 when the Indian government decided to rig the elections in the Indian occupied Kashmir, which is Jammu, Kashmir and Ladakh, and in Intifada. There was an upheaval amongst the local people, and the kind of upheaval which had never been seen before. And they felt extremely unhappy with what the Indian government was doing. And friends of mine who were there in Delhi at that time in the High Commission told me that it's perhaps the first time that the Indians feel that Kashmir is perhaps going out of their hand. But somehow things stabilized until 2016, when a young Kashmiri by the name of Burhan Wani, aged 19 or 20, he was a man who saw torture, tyranny being imposed upon his colleagues, and left his family and decided to take on the Indian establishment. He was brutally murdered. Subsequently, on his funeral alone, there were about 350,000 to 400,000. And from that day in 2016 till today, the number of people being killed, we call it martyrdom, by the Indian establishment in Indian occupied Kashmir has gone up incrementally. And in the last 4 years, on the average, 700 to 800 Kashmiris have died at the hands of the Indian establishment. 5th of August 2019 has totally changed the paradigm, because it has left Pakistan with no option but to take up the challenge at all levels. And you have seen that for the first time, a few days after the 5th of August, the government of Pakistan decided, and when the foreign minister went to Beijing, the first statement coming out of Beijing only talked of Ladakh vis-a-vis the Indians. But after our visit to Beijing, they decided to back us to the hilt and said, what do you want? So we said we would like to convene a UNSC Security Council meeting. None had been held for nearly 54 years. Within 72 hours, primarily backed by the Chinese government, the UN Security Council session was convened, yes, closed doors, but any of the permanent 5 members, China, Russia, United States, France, or Britain could have put in a veto, as they used to do in the past sometimes, and this time the Russians did not. They were the key. The Chinese were able to convince them that this meeting was extremely important. And the background basically is that things have totally changed once the 2 nation states became nuclearized. That's the background. And hence, within 72 hours, this meeting was convened. There was no statement. The Chinese ambassador came out, made a statement. Our UN representative made a statement. The Indian UN representative to the UN made statements. That's it. Subsequently, we have been trying, and the last visit of Prime Minister Imran Khan, who happens to be an Aitchisonian, and his delegation were there. They had, I think, a very busy schedule. 3 elements they addressed. They had 70 bilateral engagements with heads of state, heads of government, foreign ministers. They addressed 3 think tanks in New York. They had editorial meetings with about 4 major newspapers, and his address to the United Nations, which was about 51 minutes. Only 2 people have had longer addresses at the UN General Assembly. One of them was Fidel Castro. So with that in background, the whole thing goes on. About a week back, we went to Belgrade, the parliaments of the world. It's called the Interparliamentary Union. The speakers normally head that. Our speaker led the delegation. After a couple of days he left. He asked me to then continue leading it. We had to make short statements of 6 minutes, each of the delegations. On behalf of the government, I had to make that statement. On behalf of the parliament, I made the statement. And in fact, I had to cover a lot of ground in a very short period, and I skipped some of the paragraphs which I thought would perhaps, and Kashmir was our focus totally. With that kind of, and what is the Kashmir basis? 14th, 15th of August, there were only 3 princely states which did not opt for either India or Pakistan: Hyderabad, Junagadh and Kashmir. Hyderabad happened to be the richest of the states, 580 of them. Under the partition plan, the option was given to the Maharajas or the Nawabs or whoever headed that state. Most of them opted except these 3. And it was not till the 27th of October, and this is why the Black Day is being observed throughout Pakistan and Kashmir. The Maharaja is supposed to have signed the instrument of accession to India when the Indian troops landed in, because there was a uprising and fighting going on, and there were tribals there and others. And as of that day, that instrument of accession has never been seen by anybody. Alistair Lamb, who's written 4 books on Kashmir and possibly amongst the best, says that it's not there in the archives of the British government, the Indian government, or anywhere else. But that became the basis for Mr. Nehru as Prime Minister of India, complaining to the United Nations Security Council. He took up the complaint. After 12 months of discourse, debate and discussion in the UN Security Council, 2 resolutions were passed. And they said Kashmir is a disputed area, thereby negating the instrument of accession. Second, that the future of India will be determined through plebiscite, fair, open, transparent, impartial election conducted under the United Nations auspices. Since that day, 11 other resolutions were passed. Mr. Nehru kept on saying we completely go along. Hypocrisy at its best. He was a great statesman for India, but never wanted to implement it even for a second or moment, let alone for history. Legacy has it, 72 years, we stand where we were. Unfortunately, half of us are left. But we know that the future of Pakistan is totally linked with Kashmir. Why? For 2 major reasons. And they are the reality of the world. Number 1, all our rivers flow from the Kashmir area. 3 we gave away under the Indus Basin Treaty of 1960, under the auspices of the World Bank. Exclusive use by India. 3 were left with us. They keep on making dams. We've gone to the international arbitration. So far we've not succeeded, but it's a lifeline. We have 25 million acre-feet of irrigated system. It's the largest in the world, in one big compact, the Indus Basin Plan. And yet, it's completely under threat, what has happened. Second, geostrategically, it gives us physical access to China. China is investing $46 to $58 billion under CPEC, under the Belt and Road Initiative, which is worldwide, over $1 trillion. The Chinese are walking all over the place like the United States used to once upon a time. And that is where education in China really matters, sir. If you give me 1 minute of how China has transformed itself, there's only one signal that I get from China. When Deng Xiaoping in 1978 became the head of the Chinese government, 3 times he was put into prison by Chairman Mao Zedong. He took 2 strategic decisions. One was open markets, what we normally call capitalism as opposed to socialism. He's the man who completely opened up China. Number 2, in his first meeting with the then Secretary of State of the United States, Mr. Brzezinski, he never asked for guns. He never asked for submarines. No high-performance aircraft. He said, take 10,000 of my students immediately into your universities. No Pakistani leader has done that. 3 times we have been subservient to the United States in the 60s, 80s, and 2000. We have never gone with the demand that immediately admit X number of our students at the top university. Today, sir, and this is only 3 weeks back, 266,000 Chinese students are today in the top American universities. They are not afraid. of gaining knowledge wherever they are. And today they are the second power in the world economically, $14 trillion, America's 22. Where does Pakistan stand? We are $0.03 trillion. And that is the disadvantage and the baggage which we are carrying as people of this country. Yes, I don't blame one government or two governments, I blame the whole lot of us. We have not measured up to those heights that the Quaid-e-Azam created this nation for. And this is why today we are going around to smaller nations, sometimes asking for 2 billion, 3 billion, 2 billion. The Chinese go out and say, what is your requirement? We won't give you the money, we'll build the projects. And they're doing it worldwide. Recently they've asked the Iranians, what do you want? And in principle, they have decided they'll invest with them $290 billion. And in the second phase, 130 billion. These are Chinese figures, not mine. So that is the kind of scale they're working on. And we have been struggling to keep our exports going in the last 6 years. Between 19 and 24, there are businessmen here know much more about this than I do. But I look at the macroeconomy, mega economy of other countries and where we are. And one of the key reasons, sir, is that our quality of education. We have now 195 and 196 universities. 30 years ago, we only had 21, 22. But we don't have one, which is globally world class. We only have one, 480, Quaid-e-Azam University in the top 500 of the world. These are ratings done by 4 different agencies. And we unfortunately have not competed with the rest of the world. That has been our major challenge. You, sir, today in this public school, with great privilege and the kind of opportunities you have, very few schools in this country have. And numbers don't matter, quality matters. Yes, I acknowledge that some of your students have gone to the best Ivy Leagues, they've gone to Oxbridge. Now Oxbridge may have dwindled as the 5th economic power, but in the last 20 years of ratings of university, Oxford and Cambridge are still in the top 10 in the last 20 years. This is how they kept up, overlooking how they can influence the world. I only wish and pray that there would be MITs in Pakistan and the rest of the world would send students to us instead of we looking for visas outside the whole time and wanting jobs and going to their schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those insightful words, sir. I will now invite the President Akoba to address the gathering. Sir.
Dear Honorable and distinguished old boys, Michael Thompson, ladies and gentlemen, I'm deeply honored to stand here today before such august company to welcome old boys from the classes 1961 to 1975 inclusive. I should point out that although this is a function to honor the classes I have just mentioned, there are old boys even more senior to these classes present in this gathering. To these stalwarts, I extend the warmest of greetings from all of us and a huge thanks for gracing this occasion. You are the living embodiment of Akoba. Your unstinting support and advice and contribution have kept alive and deepened the vital bonds between the school and its old boys. I am personally indebted to you for the love and affection that you have given to me in all the years that I have been a proud office bearer of Akoba, and give me deep pleasure to present before you today yet another contribution that you have made to the school, which is the Akoba firing range. Aitchison College has a proud tradition of providing to its students all the facilities required to further the multifarious talents present in our diverse student body. A world-class firing range that tests the patience, precision, and stamina of each student, as well as developing a respect and understanding of weaponry, is a necessary complement to the developing future leaders. As you know, there was a firing range on campus for many years, but over the past 3 decades, the range fell into disrepair and disuse. Akoba has revived the range under Michael Thompson initiative and upgraded it to the 21st century international specification. The Akoba range has a new target sporting wall, new targets, 6 new firing bays, and Akoba has also purchased and donated 3 new state-of-art rifles. I must point out in closing that the Akoba firing range is as much the result of the hard work that my entire executive committee has put into this project. In particular, Mr. Umar Qureshi, Mr. Abdullah Modi, Wajid Aziz Khan, Qasim Zaman, Jalal Hassan, and Khalid Misbah, and Akoba member Hamza Naveed. A big hand for these gentlemen, please. It would be remiss of me not to mention of our new Illinois officer, Sidra Talmuntaha, as well as the entire Aitchison College faculty and all the excellent and diligent supporting staff of the school. Thank you. Aitchison College, Zindabad, Pakistan, Zindabad. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I will now invite the principal, Mr. Michael Thompson, to kindly step forward. We have a token of our appreciation for the chief guest. Mr. Shah Jahan Yoob, if you could kindly step forward and present Sayyid Fakhr Imam with a small gift from our side.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Ron Martin.
And then they're doing that. But he, I think, trains in.
Contagious बीमारी है ये जिसको इससे भी वर्टिब्रल प्रॉब्लम इससे भी
इसके भी पीछे पड़ा I think there's a whole lot of other things.
Very quickly, I want to pick up on just a couple of things. One is our association with COBA, which at least since I've been here, I know it's been a very rosy, happy one, and a very productive one, Tony. And it's so good to be doing things with the old boys. You're the spirit of the school, and to see this alive again, it will be managed perfectly. We'll have a lovely army presence, it'll have a professional presence as well, so there should be no problems. Tony, if I could thank you again on behalf of the school and ask you to...
Yes, sir.
It's just my picture.
Sir. Sir. It's your baby.
Hey! Well done, Tony.
कितने कल खाए?
Where you guys are cool.
I've bought one. I've given.
सर आगे नहीं आएंगे
Let me get the thing. Let me get the range in, get the gun and I'll do it. I got the bullseye. लाइन में लग जाए इनके पास
क्या जी हिल रही थैंक यू
मशवरा अच्छा नहीं दिया लेकिन अच्छा आदमी अच्छा
There's no substitute for open space. Entry. मुझे लगता है बेचारा बिजी बहुत है गुड बॉय बहुत हार्डली मेरा ख्याल है टोटल
Yes, sir, please.
Long live Aitchison.
Thank you, sir.
Long live Aitchison. Love Aitchsonians. लोगों का काम किया हुआ थोड़ा
ਹੁਣ ਵਕਤ ਬਦਲ ਗਿਆ ਇਹਦੇ ਹੁਣ ਚਾਰजेस ਹੋਣਗੇ
हम पिक्चर जरा सी लाइट्स कर देंगे
आ गया
You have semesters, all days in every course of every semester.
नाम बताया ना आप सीनियर हम बनाने हैं सर निजाबादी आ रही है इंशाल्लाह अच्छा बी रेडी सर आई एम रेडी
अच्छी बात
स्टोरी सुनाई थी
तू आगे आ जाते कैसे
From Germany or something.
Correct.
There were two girls and one boy, and she.
Australian national. I graduated from RMIT.
Good. Oh, RMIT.
You are from Geelong, is it?
Oh, I'm from Melbourne.
Melbourne proper, is it?
Yes. I live in Geelong.
Geelong. Oh, okay.
Thank you, sir.
It felt good. You got it. It felt good.